So,
welcome back to The Question, Blog Talk Radio conversation with Doug Pagitt and natural health coach Shelly Pagitt. This is segment 2 of Shelly's June 9th edition of the show.
that's good.
Talking about natural wellness checkups with your doctor.
Summer visits to pediatricians and dentists. So, asking some questions, trying to find the doctors, because there are more and more doctors who are becoming to be inclined to listening to parents, to actually engaging with them on their child's sense of well-being. And I think it's really important because typically when you go into the doctor, they're going to, basically just have you in the doctor's visit, tap their knees, look in their ears, look in their eyes, listen to their heart, feel their groins, and then say, okay, you're ready for these shots, read these papers, this is what's normal development.
Yeah, because normally nothing's wrong with the kid, and they're just ringing up the insurance payment.
I think so. And, yeah. I think that for the most part,
not only does the medical industry in this country make childbirth a medical crisis, they make summer a medical crisis.
Oh.
Just, it's summer, you should probably go in and have a doctor make sure you're okay.
It's a well child visit.
A well child visit.
And the well child visit, see, you and I could go tit for tat on this, but it's really, I believe it's about vaccinations.
Oh, you think that it's about, that the reason they do this is because they want to sell the vaccinations?
Well, they need to get the child in to get them vaccinated.
Yeah, well, it could be.
And
they should have home vaccination kits.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine?
Do it at home.
Gosh. Okay, so ask the questions and do a little research and see what you think. What comes up for you. I feel like as parents, we are in tune to our children. We're usually the ones who kind of notice something. When you get on the internet, you can look up symptoms and holistic approaches, natural approaches to varieties of things. I also think that sometimes that can be really confusing because if you're not sure of the issue.
Right. If
So sometimes,
if you don't know what you're doing and what you're looking at.
Right.
Some guy's blog post or blog talk radio show.
Right.
Yeah.
Might not be the most helpful. So sometimes the way I've used the, the medical system is to get a diagnosis. And most of the time, it's like nothing. But some of the time, like for instance, when Mashawn had mono and strep, and then Taylor had mono and strep in high school, as parents, we pay attention to the symptoms. And that was something that I looked at, right away. Something's going on here.
Yeah,
started having some conversations.
And you really do have to do something about that.
You do.
Yeah.
You can't let that stuff go. But then
it's too bad they didn't catch that in the child, in the child wellness.
I think we talked about this. We talked about when Taylor was sick with mono and strep, that I opted for, and thankfully we agreed on, that he would have a shot rather than the antibiotics. And again, there's reasons for that, and I'm not going to go into all of them now, but you want, if your child's in the situation where they need an antibiotic, then to have it go in their throat and down through their intestines kills all the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. And then you have to do a lot to reinvigorate their immune system. So first and foremost, try to keep them well in the,
You don't want to get sick in the first place.
On the start, like, no, you laugh at that.
I'm laughing because it's not at you.
Okay, there's a lot of
it's kind of true.
There's a lot of healthful prevention things that we can do. So anyway, that's kind of enough about the doctors. But the other thing I would say is, again, rather than just assuming that you're going to go with a protocol, think about what you're doing. Think about the vaccinations. Think about what the boosters are doing. Look into some alternatives. A lot of people are looking into homeopathic vaccinations, which is a really similar...
No, that's not actually doing them at home.
No, it's homeopathic.
Yes.
Not home.
I know, but I'm just... see, here she goes again. This is what I was telling you. If you didn't watch segment 1 of this, what I'm saying is, for people who don't know what homeopathic is, because there are people still in this world who've never heard of homeopathic.
Okay.
So when someone says, well, there's the homeopathic vaccinations, after we just made giggles about a home vaccination kit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So homeopathy is Stop. Homeopathy is, it's something that I actually can't even hardly explain to you. It's the one thing in natural health where I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I wrap my mind around it? But the easiest way to think about it is actually in terms of a vaccination, because a vaccination is taking a very small amount of whatever could be the disease-causing agent and inserting that into your body, your muscles or your
body
blood
can do
or whatever.
its own
So
thing
your
to stop
body
it.
fights it.
Yeah.
Which in the beginning seemed like a
fabulous.
dandy idea.
Of course.
The problem now is
It's very natural healthish. Like, your body can heal itself,
Yeah.
put a little bit of it in there, let it build itself up, and you're off and ready to go.
Listen, the problem is now is if people would, now I'm getting off on a completely other tangent, but the problem is now is that people don't know what is actually going into those vaccinations. So when they were developed, they were the live virus. That's what the doctors were using. They were inserting a little tiny amount, and it would be one thing at a time. So, and they were always associated with things that were causing death. And I'm not even going to go into what the charts say about how those things died out and if the vaccinations really affected them. I'm not going to go into the, verifying all that. But there's questions about all of that. Secondly, they're usually not using live viruses anymore because they're finding that they're not as safe and probably not as effective in the long run. They're using a whole variety of chemicals and stabilizers from, we talked about this before with thimerosal, and thimerosal is mercury-based and it's mostly out, but a variety of other agents that are chemicals and that can cause a child harm. The biggest problem that I have with vaccinations is that, well, there's two of them. One, we vaccinate for things because they're inconvenient now. Quite honestly, vaccinating for chickenpox is all about just being able to keep the kids in school and the parents working and not having to deal with an illness for, 12 days or whatever. That is ridiculous to me because when a child gets chickenpox and other non-deadly illnesses, they're boosting the child's immune system. If the child is not given, a bunch of over-the-counter reduce the fever medications, not let it burn, it doesn't kill the child. And the more we give these vaccinations for diseases that are normal childhood diseases, that actually increase a person's immunity as they grow older, the more we vaccinate for those things, the weaker we are as a society. Because the children are the ones who are the future generations. And if we don't allow them and their bodies to get something in terms of a sickness without us pampering them, and you want them to be comfortable. I'm not some parent who's not taking care of their child when they're sick. Stop with the eye rolling.
When he's sick.
Listen, but there's other things to do that boost a person's immune system.
Okay, I didn't mean to get you off track. This is the Question of Blog Talk Radio conversation on Tuesdays, half an hour with natural health coach Shelly Pagitt. And Shelly's going to be answering a question from an in-studio guest here in a minute. There's a couple ways that you could send your questions to Shelly. You could join in either of the chat rooms, either at Blog Talk Radio or over at Ustream. You're also welcome to call in on the call-in line at 646-929-1199. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to want to go to the next video to get the rest of this. And if you're just listening in, if you're just a regular old listener, then feel free to stay right where you are. No problem there.